Is this the moment Democrats abandon their support for immigrants? A shocking new bill with bipartisan backing signals a dramatic shift in immigration politics, as nearly 50 House Democrats join Republicans to support strict measures like mandatory detention for minor offenses. In this video, I'll break down why the Laken Riley Act is just the beginning of a wave of anti-immigrant policies coming under the next Trump administration, and what this surprising Democratic support means for the future of immigration in America. And we're starting right now. I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, I help immigrants all over the country secure their future in America through asylum. Let me know in the comments if you've got an asylum case pending or are considering applying. I'd especially like to hear from you if you've been waiting for an asylum interview for multiple years. The Laken Riley Act, named after a nursing student tragically killed by an undocumented immigrant, has gained a surprising level of bipartisan support. The pending legislation, which looks likely to eventually pass, portends bad things for immigrants in America. It's an attempt to crack down on immigrants, and is unfortunately just a preview of anti-immigrant laws and policies to come under the second Trump administration. 48 House Democrats joined Republicans to pass this bill, and even prominent Senate Democrats like John Fetterman and Ruben Gallego are backing it. This signals a dramatic shift in immigration politics that you need to understand. Let me break down three major changes this law would bring. First, and most alarming, is mandatory detention. If you're undocumented and get accused of theft valued at just $100 or more, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, would be required to detain you. No bond hearing, no chance to explain yourself, just straight to detention. Think about what that means in practical terms. A misunderstanding at a store, a false accusation, even a disputed payment could lead to mandatory detention. During my time working for the government's two main agencies for asylum and refugee matters, I saw how devastating detention can be for immigrants and their families. Parents separated from children, people losing their jobs, medical care interrupted. This provision would make that reality far more common. Second, the law gives unprecedented power to states over immigration matters. State attorneys general could sue the federal government over immigration enforcement. That means 50 different states potentially pushing 50 different enforcement approaches. States could even influence visa policies for countries that don't accept deported individuals. This is a massive shift from immigration being purely federal. I can tell you from my experience as an asylum officer that consistent uniform application of immigration law is already challenging. Adding 50 state attorneys general into the mix would create chaos. Imagine living in a country where crossing a state line could mean completely different immigration enforcement priorities. This could seriously impact international relations and make it harder for people from certain countries to get visas. Imagine a state trying to block visas from an entire country because that country won't accept a few deportees. Third, the law creates new grounds for inadmissibility. Being arrested for or even just admitting to theft or shoplifting could make someone inadmissible to the United States. This is much broader than current law. By the way, if you want to maximize your chances for asylum success, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and bell notification so you don't miss the insights that I share on this channel. Okay, now, let's talk politics. This isn't happening in a vacuum. With Donald Trump returning to the White House, we're seeing a preview of what's coming. Trump has already announced plans for aggressive immigration enforcement, including possibly bringing back Title 42-style policies. He's talked about the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. But here's what's really concerning. This isn't just Republicans who are cracking down on immigration in America. The bipartisan support for the Laken Riley Act shows that both parties are moving toward stricter immigration enforcement. When nearly 50 House Democrats support mandatory detention for minor theft accusations, that's a major shift in how both parties approach immigration. I can't stress enough how 5 key problems could affect immigrants. First, due process rights would be severely weakened. Mandatory detention without bond hearings for nonviolent offenses goes against basic American legal principles. I've seen firsthand how crucial bond hearings can be for immigrants fighting their asylum cases. Without them, people often give up valid asylum claims simply because they can't bear being detained. Second, the risk of discrimination and racial profiling is real. The broad language about suspicion of theft could lead to discriminatory enforcement. As an asylum officer, I saw how vague standards can lead to unfair targeting. When law enforcement has broad discretion and mandatory consequences, certain communities often bear the brunt. Third, enforcement challenges could make this law dangerous. With limited resources, ICE might feel pressured to make quick arrests without proper investigation just to comply with a mandatory detention requirement. This could lead to wrongful detentions and families being needlessly separated. Fourth, international relations could suffer when states start influencing visa policies. It could strain diplomatic relationships and make it harder for people to come here legally. Countries might retaliate by making it harder for Americans to travel or do business business abroad. Fifth, and perhaps most concerning, this law could make comprehensive immigration reform even harder to achieve. By focusing solely on enforcement and punishment, it ignores the complex realities of immigration. We need solutions that address both security and humanitarian concerns. So, what does all of this mean for immigrants in the United States right now? First, location matters more than ever. Some states will likely be more aggressive in using these new powers than others. You need to think carefully about where you live. States with a history of aggressive immigration enforcement might become even more challenging. This basically means that the South, already inhospitable to immigrants, is going to get worse. And yes, that includes Texas, where I live and where my law firm is based, and Florida, where so many of our clients are. In addition to much lower asylum approval rates than in places like California, asylum seekers now will likely have to contend with an even harsher anti-immigrant environment. Second, legal representation is more necessary than ever for people pursuing asylum or really any other immigration case in the United States. With mandatory detention on the table for minor accusations, you need a lawyer who can protect your rights. The stakes are simply too high to go it alone. One small mistake could lead to detention without bond. The Laken Riley Act isn't law yet. It still needs final Senate approval and the president's signature, but the bipartisan support suggests both that it will pass and that there's an appetite in Congress for similar measures. The time to prepare is now. If you're ready to take the next step and get help with your asylum case, call my office today. That number is 713-909-0401. Remember, we help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you live. Call us now to schedule an asylum strategy session so we can help you secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's an honor to serve you in your asylum journey.